up?
You know,
Todd,
it's always so great. Like, this is the third time we've been on video this week. It's a big week, and we got two amazing people here alongside of us. So I'm really excited for today.
Yeah, me too, man. So I've got Scott Nicholson joining us, top producer in the mortgage coach community, the seller buy down king. And Scott, really the way I'm positioning you is when it comes to mortgage strategies that help realtors sell more homes faster and make more money for families, you the man. How do you like that, brother?
That's good. I appreciate that. Paid endorsement there. I owe you something. But no, I'm excited. I mean, I'll be the fourth wheel in this vehicle here, so I'll send the back, and where I can add to your and Roberto and Todd's, I will, and we'll leave it at that.
Right on, right on. So before I bring in our special guest, Roberto Monaco, do want to draw attention to the Mortgage Coach Facebook group. During this call, it's an interactive place to ask questions. We are streaming this live, Facebook Live, within the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind. So if you have questions, put them in comments. If there's a big takeaway or you just want to add a comment that's valuable, put it down there. Todd and I will both be monitoring that during the call and after the call. So if you're watching the recording, you know, give us a like if you get value, and please contribute in the comment section. So with that said, Roberto posted a question. It was last week, right, Roberto?
Yeah, last week. Yep.
Last week. And for those that don't know Roberto, I mean, he's been a speaker, coach for what, more than a decade? It feels like forever, but
yeah, forever.
Forever. He has done over 10,000, over 4,000 keynotes and speeches. So the guy has been on a lot of stages, delivered a lot of impact. He's done over 12,000 hours of one-on-one coaching, and he's been my speaker coach. I think it's been 9 or 10 years.
Yeah. I started in 2008. Yeah,
2008. And when Roberto first, started coaching with me, he recorded me, he created notes. I shared the story in the interview you and I did a couple days ago, but there may be people that didn't see that interview, Roberto. So be sure to tell your story a little bit when I bring you in. But the goal is, Roberto asked a question about, hey, who has been speaking in front of realtors or large groups? Who is making that part of their value prop? And it got a lot of questions, it got a lot of comments, and it just reminded me that at Mortgage Coach, we need to help you guys show up one-to-one in a way that's awesome and has influence. And when you're speaking to groups, we want you to show up in a way that not only creates wow and influence, but it creates more business for you. So when you get off of stage, you are crushing it with value for yourself and your client. So with that said, Roberto, why don't you kick it off with a little bit about yourself, and then let's have a mastermind.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you today. As you notice, I have an accent. I'm not faking my accent. Actually, it's my real accent. I'm from Brazil originally, and I've been living in America now for 23 years. And the whole speaking thing for me started as a goal, as a mission, as a purpose, because I always love to help people. And I decided to become a speaker, and I ended up working for a guy named Tony Robbins. Most likely, most of loan officers know or heard the name Tony Robbins. And it's an important distinction, because when I was working for Tony, I was doing around 400 talks a year. And out of the 400 talks a year, around 200 were at real estate offices, probably 100 mortgage companies. That was the top two industries. You know, when you have a real estate meeting, sales meeting, or a mortgage company, you have a sales meeting. We used to go there and do like a 45-minute talk and close for Tony Robbins for the event. So that's when it started for me. And in 2000, I did that from 2002 to 2008. In 2008, opened up a company called Influenceology. So I'm going to my 11th year doing speaking coaching. And from everything I learned, from my journey since 2002 when I started with Tony, I want to share with you the three most important things. There's a lot of things, but these three, I feel, if you master those things, or if you improve those three things today, I know for a fact that your conversions meaning when you do a talk in front of a real estate professional, you're going to be able to say, you know what? I want to meet with you. You're going to be my partner. Or some of you might be doing a first-time home buyer class. So if you're speaking for consumers, for example, I know my heart, my conversions, your conversion is gonna go up. So get a pen and paper, because I'm gonna provide a lot of information for you, how to stuff. I'm gonna give you 3 points. First point, okay? When you're doing a talk in a presentation, when you're doing speaking to groups, you wanna be able to structure your message, okay? Structure your message. Point number 1 here. One of my clients, his name is John Davila. He's not a loan officer, not a realtor. He sells compliance for another industry. And one day he called me up and said, "Hey man, I have CSS disease." And I'm like, "What is a CSS disease?" He goes, "I can't sell shit." And I'm like, "No, CSS disease." So what happened? So I said, "Send me your talk." So he recorded his talk, and it was terrible. And the reason it was terrible was because he was an expert on his topic, and he was just literally dumping information, one slide after another slide. Okay, I call this vomiting information, and the reason I chose the word vomit, so that guys remember that we don't want to do that, right? And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you have a talk on a presentation, like, man, what I'm going to share, and you open up your PowerPoint and start typing, and then one thing, then one thing, then one thing, and then all of a sudden you have like 50 slides to share. Way too much information. Now, presentation structure changed my life, and it's going to change yours right now. Presentation structure is how you organize a message. The context here is you speaking to groups. So how you organize from the beginning to end a talk. I'm going to give you right now a way of thinking, so that by the way, regardless of your content of your message, you can use this information I'm about to share, which is awesome, okay? And the way I want you to understand presentation structure is this. I'm sure you know how to use Word document. Everybody knows, right? So you open up your computer and you're typing, and your eyes can see the words on the screen. But then underneath it, there is a computer code or language generating those words. We don't see the code, right? We just see the words. And presentation structure is just like that code. I want to teach you how to code a talk so that you can come up with like a talks. Not only going to save you time, but it's going to help you increase conversion. Now, Roberto, tell me what it is. So now in a presentation, we have 5 major areas, okay? Which is the opening, pre-frame, body, pre-close, and close. Opening, pre-frame, body, pre-close, and close. Opening, pre-frame, body, pre-close, and close. Now the opening is how to engage the audience and you break their thinking pattern. The pre-frame is how you position yourself and your message to the audience. And those things, for example, opening might be 3% of a presentation, pre-frame around 3%. And then you have the body, which I'm going to talk about today, is around 70%. Then you have your pre-close when you actually do a call to action. And then you have your close when is your last thing that you say and you want to finish up with emotion. Right? So I want to talk about the body today, which in every presentation is around 70%. Okay. So here's the framework I want to give you. Please write this down. I personally, when I go out and I pitch my stuff, I use this, and this is awesome. So write it down, and then I want to explain later. Problem, impact, cause, solution, how the solution works, and prove that works. Let me repeat again, okay? Problem, impact, cause, solution, how the solution works, and prove the solution works. Now, I want to take my time here and explain all these areas, all these categories here. I have a core belief that before I present the information, I want to create the need for the information. Please write it down. Before you present the information, you want to create the need for. So Scott is the king of the sell by down king, right? So before you actually present information about the sell by down, We want to create the need for it. And why is that important, Roberto? Because here's what I learned since 2002. Every time you speak to an audience, they're going to fall into 3 categories. They don't know they have a problem. They know they have a problem, but they don't have urgency to solve the problem. Or a small portion, they know they have a problem, they have urgency, and they're looking for the right consultant, coach, or business partner. So the reason you, in the body of your talk, you always start with the problem and the impact of the problem and the cause is because you want to be able to address elegantly. And the word is elegantly. The people who are not aware of the problem, oh, I don't even know about sell by down, never heard about it, right? Or the impact of problem, right? What happens when you don't know these strategies? We miss deals. People think they cannot qualify, get a mortgage, and the cause the problem, because the lack of education, for example. So, and even if you're doing a 5-minute talk, okay, I'm not talking about a keynote. I'm talking about even a quick presentation in a real estate office. We always want to introduce the problem, the impact, and cause. Advertising guru David Ogilvy said that if I'm going to sell fire extinguisher, I'm going to open with fire, right? I'm going to put fire. Oh, I need a fire extinguisher. Oh, here you go. I sell those, by the way. Why? Because I'm creating the need for my information. So when you look, by the way, this is for any presentation, right? This is the code. I always want you to be able to elegantly talk about the problem, the impact. I learned that from Tony Robbins. He said, look, when you talk about the problem, it's almost like when you have a cut. The impact is when you put a salt on it. Hurts, right? Why? You want to get their attention. And then you always want to talk about the cause of the problem. Why? Because your solution, this is very important. Your solution that you're presenting must be solving the cause of the problem. Because sometimes people they talk about one problem specific, they make the problem big, but their solution is not connected to the cause of the problem. Does that make sense? So you have the problem, you can talk about the impact of the problem, the cause, and now when you do that, when you communicate that way, your goal is to make sure the level 1, oh, I didn't know I have a problem. I have a problem. We jump to level 2. Oh, I have a problem. It's important. I have urgency. And then I go level 3. Is he or she the right person to help me solve? Right? That's why elegantly. So how do you do that? So how do you take an audience on a journey from problem, impact, and cause? Now, Roberto, people, can I do problem, cause, and impact? Yeah, you can. You can do that. So sometimes you're going to be able to, again, depending on the context of presentation. Do you have 3 minutes? Do you have half an hour? Do you have 15? Depends on how much you have and the context, the setting. But you can, one good story can achieve all these goals. You can use market data. Sometimes I like to use market data first, and then I bring a story to make it personal to them. And as I'm delivering my message, it's very important, okay? As I'm delivering my message, I want to be asking questions. How many of you have a client like that? How many of you or someone other realtor you know that have experienced a situation like that before? Why? Because you don't want to just quote unquote dump information on people. So the first part is the problem, the impact, the cause. Then I'm going to flip. I'm going to change my energy. I'm going to get excited. And then I'm going to talk about my solution. I'm going to get into how my solution, because solution sometimes could be the name of a product or service or package, right? And then I'm going to get into step 2, how the solution works. And then number 3, I'm going to prove how my solution works. And I'll be talking more about storytelling later on. I know Scott does amazing work with the storytelling as well when he speaks for real estate professionals. But that's, once I build up the problem, hey, here's what it is, the seller by down, here's how it works. And then you go, let me give an example. You don't have to say, let me prove that works. You don't say that, right? This is just for us here. You just say, hey, let me give an example. That's a transition. Hey, by the way, let me give an example here. And then you're going to storytell. And then you're going to storytell. And for example, if I'm pitching a group of real estate professionals, I might tell one story about that I help couple or a real estate agent. I might tell a story about how one of my real estate partners was able to help a consumer. So I want to create identification. Okay. So for the first point I want to make here today is that structuring your message or talks. By the way, Roberto, can I use that structure in a one-on-one conversation, an email, and a video? Of course, of course. Is that the only structure that I use? No, there's more, but that's one of my favorite ones. Okay, I want to pause here. I want to see if Todd or Dave or Scott has any comments, anything they want to say or add to it.
So I'll go first. So first of all, guys, if you have questions or if you get a takeaway, put it in comments below. I've documented a few of my takeaways. I mean, I always love that framework, you know, open, pre-frame.
Yeah.
You called it body here, but
yeah.
I've always, the way I've internalized that, it's story and strategy.
Yeah.
So in the middle, pre-frame your close and your close. So I love that.
Yeah.
That was huge. And then I wanted to connect the dots when everybody heard Roberto talk about the problem, the impact, the cause.
Yeah.
I want you guys to think that's what a total cost analysis does. You know, when you are meeting with a client and you're showing, you know, a rent versus own, or you're showing a seller buy down, when you show the difference in different, you know, over different periods of time, that's the impact. And you're blowing it up. So I just want you guys to think, like, we're learning how to speak in public. We're learning how to get more ROI and influence when we're in front of a group. But everything he is sharing is so on point for an individual family. I mean, this
100%.
You should still have an opening, a pre-frame, tell a story, explain a strategy, show the impact over time, you know, connect that to the problem. Like, and problem is a good word, but it could be just like they told you their goals over 5 years, their goals over 15 years. Connect that, and then, you know, I just wanted to connect that. Todd, anything you want to ask or say at this point?
No, I think you just crushed it with your commentary. I mean, the one thing to remember where Roberto started, he said, use the word vomit, right? Show up and throw up. That's what most of us do. We just say so much in our mortgage talk, and people are like sound like the teacher in Charlie Brown. And so for a lot of you who are like, I'm never going to talk to a group of realtors or, you know, be on Tony Robbins' staff like Roberto was. I mean, yeah, you're right on. I mean, one-on-one conversations, this is where we all need to start with this. And I got a page of notes already, so keep it going.
So, hey, real quick, Scott Nicholson, any questions or comments so far from you?
Yeah, well, just for everyone to know, Roberto was my first and only public speaking coach. So I was part of those classes back in 10, and he chewed me up, spit me out, looked at my videos, and hey, great, but here's how we can improve and learn it. And I'm still taking notes. And not only that, I listened to the interview the other day, and it inspired me so much to where I love Roberto when he says, I want you to storytell, so you have these like arsenal quivers and shoot your arrow. So I went ahead and produced my little storytelling videos. As that problem comes up, I go, hey, I got a great one for you. I want you to watch this video. And so what I'll do, from what I inspired from Dave and Roberto the other day, I'm going to post some of these in the group, and I'll give you the problem, and I'll give you the solution. So I'm going to frame it. So I'm going to use Roberto's, how he's framing it, and I'll give you guys real life stuff I'm personally using and I'm building my quivers with.
I love that.
So, I love that too. So one more thought before we move on, because another thing that Roberto taught me, and I learned it when he first watched me speak, gave me notes. He started with, this is what I like, you know, here's some good stuff, this is what I like. And then he always goes, and then here's some areas, and I think you called it areas of consideration. You were getting to know me, but it was areas you need to improve. And so I just also want to recommend everybody watching this, guys, we're a community here to learn together. And my hope is, one, you're taking notes, two, you're going to improve, but then you're going to get feedback, and you're going to give feedback to your peers. So always when you give feedback, start with, this is what I liked, this is what's good, and here's some things that you might be able to do better. So I just want to, I learned that from you, Roberto. I want to play that forward.
So the structure is great. The second point here is about storytelling. Now, Dave and I did a call, I think it was last week or this week. I think it was this week. Time is flying. And I kind of like talk a little bit about storytelling. And today I want to approach from a different perspective, okay? Can anybody see my prop here? Yeah, fake banana. There's a whole science of a prop, by the way. I can do a talk on that too. So there's a psychologist and researchers, they want to know if storytelling can be effective to sell stuff. So they come up with this study and became super famous, and you can actually search online. It's called significant objects. Significant objects. And what they did, they went and started buying, you can search that after the presentation, right? Everybody escaped the webinar. No, just stay here. So basically what they do, they start buying objects, like for example, a coffee mug for 30 cents, and they bought a fake banana for 25 cents. And then they had professional copywriters to make up a story about the object. And then they put that story on eBay. And then they want to know if the object that sold for, let's say, on a market for 25 cents, if that story was able to influence people's emotions and increase the value of information. Man, the success was crazy. One of the examples, it was so crazy that they wrote a book about it. And you can search online, don't have to buy the book. But like, for example, the fake banana, and I have the numbers here, they bought it for 25 cents in the market, and then they make a story, and then they sold for $76, right? And like, it's so crazy because stories was able to increase the value of things. It's crazy. Now, I've been teaching this for many years. So a year ago, my mom came from, and I'm thinking, I understand storytelling. That stuff doesn't work on me. So a year ago, my mom came from Brazil, and I went to pick her up. I was living in San Diego at that time, and I went to LA, pick her up, and came home. And when she came home, she goes, I want to have a gift for you. And she opened her luggage, and she pulls this little statue, really old, tiny statue, really beat up. And she said, do you remember this? And automatically on my mind, I'm thinking, man, that's an ugly statue. Does she want me to hang around the house? You know, when your mind judges so fast, my mind judged so fast. And like, no, Mom, I don't remember that. And she said, well, this little statue is a guardian angel. And I'm like, okay. And she said, well, my grandma gave this little guardian angel to my grandma so it could protect her. My grandma gave this little guardian angel to my mother so it could protect her. My mother gave it to me so it could protect myself. I gave this little beautiful guardian angel to your sister, Isabel, so it could protect her. And now Isabel is sending this guardian angel to your daughter, Sophia, so it could protect her. And she said, this guardian angel has been protecting the woman in our family for over 120 years. Automatically, I'm like, right here. And I'm like, man, I was judging that. I judge. So, and now, if you go to my Sophia's room, all pink, the guardian angels all there, beautiful. Why? Because how fast I went from this ugly statue to, oh my God, a guardian angel to protect my daughter, like in 2 minutes. Because stories have the power. Stories can increase the value and the perception in your realtor's mind, in your consumer's mind. That's why if there's one skill that I wanted to master to become a great storyteller. I still work on my storytelling skills. I learned this from when I got my job at Anthony Robbins Companies, 2002, and I started going to UPW, Unleash the Power Within. I'm like, how does Tony do that? Like, be able to hypnotize, like not in a bad way, but just like captivate, thousands of people. And I start breaking down speeches. And the same thing happened with Zig Ziglar and Joe Maxwell, all these guys I was following at that time. And one thing that I learned is that they're all, now in persuasive communication, there's a lot of things that you can do, but storytelling is one of them. So in a presentation, I gave a little framework, right? The problem, the impact, the cause, solution, how it works, prove it. I believe that when you do a talk in a real estate office, when it comes to telling a story of a consumer or a story of another realtor or referral partner you have, you gotta be able to tell two stories, okay, in this category. What if you do and what if you don't? Please write this down. Because most of us, we always like talk about success stories, right? And be like, we had this client, the situations was right here, here's the process, here's the results, which is great. That's what happens if you do a story. And I mean, the majority of the talks that I break down, analyze, we don't have the what if you don't story. And some people might feel uncomfortable, like, man, I don't want to talk about the danger consequences of if they don't take action in my strategy. But I always ask audiences, if you don't want to talk about it, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation, maybe with a real estate agent or consumer, that sit down, talk to you, you did a presentation, and it was the right product, the right presentation, and they're like, man, I want to think about it. They didn't take action. And then later on, 6 months later, maybe a year later, they came back to you and regret it. Has that ever happened to you? And usually I get 100% of people like, yes, right? So this regret then is not a like, quote unquote, a sales strategy, put fear in people. I don't believe in that. Not at all. It's just like we have to tell the truth. And the truth is that we have seen people applying strategy. And what happens when you do effectively, there's amazing results. I have also seen people that have missed out and not doing that. Like, for example, one of my what if you don't stories. Years ago, and it was not in the mortgage industry, it was a different industry. I was doing a presentation in Las Vegas, and I was promoting a class. And in the end, this doctor came to me and said, hey, Roberto, I want to come to your class. I say, why you want to come? He goes, I have this huge phobia of speaking. I feel super uncomfortable, I don't like it. So, okay, sign up. So I gave my form, he signed up. 3 months later, on the day of the class, this lady shows up. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you're not registered. And she told me, look, originally my husband signed up for the public speaking class because he had fear of speaking, but he was so afraid to come and speak in this class that he sent me instead. You know what I mean? And then I should not even a speaker. And what happened was that later on, I went to search their business. The business was gone, right? Because sometimes fear shows up one area, but you carry the fear to different areas as well. Let me pause here. So that's an example of what if you don't story. What if you don't overcome the fear that I tell? It's not like a success story, like, oh, and then he started doing all these amazing things. So in influence, especially when you're speaking to groups, okay, especially in the group context, you want to have what if you do and what if you don't story, okay? Another reason, and I wrote this last week, that a great story will transform the presenter's close into the audience mission. Write this down. A great story will transform the presenter's close into the audience mission. Now, if I'm speaking to real estate agents, their mission is truly to help their communities, to create a safe community where people own their houses, then your quote unquote close doesn't feel like a close anymore. My close is your mission now. Let's do it together. So that's why we want to be able to tell these great stories. So I just want to give you these ideas, okay? And I want to call Scott too here, because Scott, can you give one of the things that I shared in our previous call with Dave? I said that one way, some people say, well, but I'm a great storyteller already, right? I tell stories, but here's what happens. They're not on purpose, right? I want it to be a strategic storyteller. And a strategic storyteller, I show up my quivers, right? 10 of them. And then if they want to talk about A, if the A is the problem, I have an A story. If C is the problem, I pull my C story. because now I create identification. And sometimes just like jokes, have you ever been in a situation, a party where you're hanging out with your buddies, right? Have a little drink, and then one tell a joke, the second person tell a joke, the third person tells a joke. Now it's your turn. He goes, "Oh, I don't know any jokes." Come on, you heard 1,000 jokes in your life. You're not prepared, right? So that's why when you show up, by the way, this applies to one-on-one meetings too, with realtors and consumers. You gotta have your stories in your keyword. So Scott, can you talk about what you did? And the things that I think that you had like 4 names or 4 categories.
Yeah. So, geez, I got like 3 pages of notes already. So let's do. So as I was saying, so I listened to that conversation or the interview the other day with the two of you and Dave, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why haven't I not done that? So I went ahead and created 4 quivers, and so pertaining to the seller buy down. And so let me see. Okay. So how to leverage, right? So how to leverage the seller buy down to pay off their loan sooner, right? So there's a strategy, if you don't, you're going to take it in 30 years and be this much, and so on. If you do, and I show them in the presentation, if you do, here's the benefits of that. The next one, and I'm going to post these in the group here, and I'll wait till the conversation or our interview's done, and I'll post. How to purchase more house without increasing payment. So think of that. I wanted to go, and so if I'm sitting with my agents going, yeah, I got this buyer, and we're finding houses, and his taste is here, right? But we're offering, he doesn't want to go over a budget of this. And I showed a really good example a month ago or a few weeks back, Dave and I did. The night before, I got a text from my agent going, hey, Scotty, we want to write offer on a house. Price was $750. My client doesn't want a payment more than $650. Can you figure it out with your seller buy down thingy? And so in my presentation to the community here, I posted the text, right? So there it is. There's the actual text from my realtor. And then I posted the video that supported that. So I gave a solution saying, great, I went ahead and used the buy down. I got it to within his payment to a sales price of $654. I missed it by $4,000. So now the agent's going, wow, I can take this, pivot back to my client. He wanted maybe something I thought was unrealistic. I went to Scott. Scott achieved it. He presented it back to me, and now we're actually still making offers on this property, but we have a strategy to implement. So first one, our second one, how to purchase without increasing payment. How would I use that in today's market? There's an exact scenario I just gave you. The second one is, how many have been pre-qualified the old-fashioned way through like the online lender and saying, no, I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you have to stop here based on payment. So they're capping that consumer of what they can buy in today's market. There's a great presentation to help with that. How to sell your home for more with a seller buy down. This is huge because I'm now on Zillow. I've gotten triggers that I get 10 a day now in markets I've set up. Price reduction, price reduction, price drop, price reduction, price drop. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is a great one to do because now I can go after agents and say, hey, I could help you. Instead of going out and price reducing that market, driving your property down, I can help you sell this house. I can help you sell it for more. I can help you bring value back to your seller, right? And so I produced that video. And the fourth one was, think of it this way. I gave you one, how to increase your purchase without increasing payment, but how to purchase, keep the same payment, but less down. All I did is like you taught us, Roberto, is I reframed the whole thing. My problem was cash, not payment. So I structured the purchase, but with less money. The problem was money. How do I fix it? I presented it. There's my solution. So I'm going to post all 4 of those in the community. I highly recommend you watch those. Also, there's a video in there, and it goes through the whole thing of how I set it up, what's the problem, how I fix it, and call to action at the end.
Man, that's outstanding. That is true Thanks for sharing that, Scott. Outstanding,
So,
buddy.
so real quick, guys. So this is where this community can blow up the value. Like Scott just shared, several good headlines. They were stories and they were strategies. And the community has, you guys were sitting on a lot more. When I interviewed Kevin Watson and he did a rep versus own, I can't remember the exact headline that we came up, but it was something to the effect of how to become a millionaire, keep your payment the same and go from renting to owning. So there's so many stories, whether there's a rep versus own story with a great headline and a great story, a move up or like, hey, keep your payment the same, take money out of your home and get the home you dreamed about and blank. So here's my ask, community. Whether you're on this call live, if you're live, I want you to stay in the game. Take a note. If you've already written something down that would be valuable, share it. But stay in the game during the call. But after this, and if you're watching the recording, pause it, write down some good headlines, some good stories, share them in links down below. Roberto, you're killing it, brother.
Love it. Before I have one story to wrap up here before I go to the final point here. And I was thinking about it. I've been collecting stories for a long time, and I always, so in influence, the way I teach storytelling, there's different ways to teach. I like to teach things that are very simple so we can use. Sometimes coaches try to make things complicated to get a job. I don't believe in that. I believe in to make things simple so people can use. So I believe as a professional, you got to be to tell 3 stories, right? Categories. One is the one you're talking about here. Your client stories could be client, meaning a realtor, could be a consumer. Client stories. And then within the category, you have what if you do, what if you don't. Sometimes you can have both in one story. Right, what Scott was talking about it. Then you have your personal story for a longer talks, longer 15 to 30. If you have that, then I recommend you tell your personal story, why you're in a mortgage business. And there's always a way to tell in an emotional, fun, powerful way. There's always, I'm telling you, there's always. Some people think, no, there's no story behind it. I just want to make money. I'm telling you, there's always a story. It can be a cool story too. And the third one is what I call a Swiss Army knife story. A Swiss Army knife. But what is a Swiss Army knife? A Swiss Army knife story is a story you can use for everything. For example, anything that you want to illustrate. When you're communicating, okay, this is an important point. When we communicate, you tell your clients, your spouse, your kids points or claims, right? It's just a name. It's a great time to buy a house right now. The market is super hot. This claims, right? Things that you say, and sometimes most of the claims you communicate, people don't believe it. Sometimes they believe it, sometimes don't believe it. And what I like about finding stories to support the major claims, the claims becomes more believable, and then you increase the likelihood. It doesn't guarantee, but increase the likelihood of people saying yes to you. Now, when you say your claims, you want to use evidence. And I saw a video of Scott that was so good, the seller by down, that maybe you can post that one, but that you sent to me was so good, because the pure evidence. I'm like, how I'm going to not agree with them? That was so good. And then you have evidence, the numbers, and then you have illustration, more the emotional side of the brain. So when you do your talks, it's not either or, it's both. Right? Very important point. Back in the 80s, this construction company in Rio built up these 2 huge towers right on the water. Palace 1, Palace 2. And they spend a lot of money on these buildings, high rises, to make super nice, super fancy, so they could sell for a lot of money. So these Brazilian people, multimillionaires, bought these units. And you walk in these places, units, you could like huge, window, you could see the ocean, this nice high rise, the kitchen, like amazing. And they sold for millions. And Friday night of Carnival, thank God it's Carnival, because a lot of people out partying. One tower, Palace One, collapse, brand new building. Kill 8 people. Engineers from all over the world came in. It's like, man, what happens? Brand new tower, brand new building, collapse, kill 8 people. And after 3 months of investigation, the auditors figure out that to save money, the engineers mixed concrete with beach sand. And the entire structure collapsed. And what I found is because when it comes to purchasing a home, a lot of people try to save money here and there, and they are missing the solid financial education so you can withstand everything, right? Because sometimes people don't have a solid foundation. In a real estate transaction, the solid foundation is education. And that's what I'm here to provide for you guys, right? So like, for example, you can use that story that I just gave you to close a talk, right? Because the whole point of an action of like, well, because the build was building a weak foundation collapse. In a real estate transaction, if you don't have a strong foundation, collapse too. And the way you build up a building a strong foundation in real estate and is through financial education. And that's exactly what I teach my real estate partners and my consumers, right? That's why I'm excited to talk to you, right? And then you go on a close. So just like that, that's an example of a Swiss Army knife story, which is not a story. It's not my personal story that I'm sharing why I'm a speaker or why a loan officer. It's not a client story, but a story to illustrate the point that in life, you got to have a strong foundation. When in real estate transactions, you want to have what? A strong foundation. And the strong foundation starts with what? Education. Starts with know-how. And that's what I do in my office with my clients and my consumers and my real estate partners. Right? And now we have this emotion going in your favor, and then you're going to close, and it's beautiful. So just like that, you want to have a collection of stories. By the way, this is a true story too. I can post the link on. I didn't make it up. Actually happened in real. I can post the link later on from Wikipedia. It's crazy, right? Let me pause here. My point number 1 was about structuring a message. Point number 2 here was about storytelling. I want to pause. Todd, Dave, anything? Scott, any?
Yeah. So I'll start it off. This is awesome, Roberto. Please do share the Wikipedia link to that story. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me of another story that many of you have heard if you've been in the business pre-meltdown. So, 2008. And there used to be a big story in the mortgage industry called Brother A versus Brother B, and like, hey, Brother A did this, Brother B did this. It told this story of how a decision on how they structured their mortgage, one had, $500,000 more 20 years later, and so stories matter. And there's a lot of great ways. Some of them are, on point with Mortgage Coach, where the total cost analysis is driving that. And some of them are just great stories like this, and stories that happened in your local market, or stories of people that came to you and they had X problem. You amplify it, you blow it up, and then you talk about how you solved it. So there can just be so many different stories. Roberto, I want to ask you a favor, and then I'm going to ask the community something. So Roberto, I always try to get this community activated to where they're asking questions, they're sharing success stories. Would you be willing to do like a 20-minute coaching session with whoever, whether it's a post in this link down below, where you post something of value, or whether you're watching this in Facebook and you post it in comments below. But if I picked one person that made the best comment, that whether they shared a story, they shared a strategy, they asked a question, I just subjectively picked my favorite. Would you do, 20-minute coaching session for them?
Of course.
So boom, guys.
Yeah.
And Roberto, what do you charge an hour, and what's coaching? Well, I don't want to get into a sell it. Like,
no, it's expensive. It's expensive, but I love that. And then my sweet spot, so you guys know, is presentation, public speaking, video presentation. That's when I thrive. So if you select someone, just know that's my expertise. That's the stuff that I love and study: influence, persuasion. you know?
Yeah.
So here's another story for you. I was thinking about it. The story about, it's kind of, because sometimes, by the way, there's a whole research on humor too, humor being persuasive. Because realtors right now, they're looking for business because the Zillow, and they're scared, right? That Zillow's going to take their business. That's fair to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one story, if you wanna add some humor, you can say this. You can say, look, there's a guy was in South Carolina walking around, hot day, super hot day, and then he saw these ladies in front, like there were like 4 ladies, you know, walking around a mile away, 2 miles away, and then all of a sudden the ladies take their clothes off and jump in a little lake. Right? And they're right there swimming in the lake, and the guy looked like, huh? And then start approaching the lake, and the lady saw the guy, and the lady's all naked, was swimming like, live here, you know, we're not gonna get out of the water until you leave. And the guy said, ladies, I didn't come here to see you running around naked. I just came here to feed the alligators. You see, right now, real estate agents are swimming next to alligator and have no clue. All right? It's time to take action. It's time to get out of the water and start being creative. And then you link to your message. You know, stuff like that doesn't have to be a long story. People, I know David's smiling here, Scott is smiling. You get a reaction, and then you story tell, have 1 minute, and they'll be like, yeah, that makes story sense. Man, and then you connect the alligator with Zillow. Yeah, man, it's right there, just waiting. I want to take action, and then anyway, so that was just thinking about that.
Yeah, no, I love that, brother. And here's a slide from one of Scott Nicholson's opening slides where he's creating this demand that like, competition is here. They want to take you out. You're a local referral-based lender. So guys, remember, especially when it comes to the opening and the closing. Yeah. And Roberto, if you don't mind, just as we wrap this up and close, you know, we did that interview. One of the big ideas you focused on was just the value of the close. Yeah. And so I do want to make sure we don't miss that. Yeah. In this particular call, but guys, make sure. Again, this is Scott Nicholson's slide. His website's amazing. I'll put a link down below to one of my favorite interviews with Scott. Scott, why don't you plan to, in the last 5 minutes, share a couple ideas on how you're opening, pre-framing, and driving urgency. But Roberto, if you could, before we wrap this up, share your vision on how important closing is, and maybe give the community an idea to impact their close.
A lot of people, especially doing talks, closing must be your favorite part, okay? If you get one thing from me today, get this. Closing, or the call to action, must be your favorite part of the talk. Must be like, what's your favorite part? That's it. And I promise, if I pull 100 people, and when I post that question, there's so many people wrote, I'm doing talks. If I were to interview one by one, I guarantee that they spend time on the content, they spend time designing slides, but they haven't spent time working, rehearsing the close. Guarantee. That's because a lot of people have unconsciously a bad association with, oh, we gotta change, we gotta flip the script. Like, man, this is my favorite part, right? So start there. We gotta rehearse, we gotta prepare. So when you go into the close transition, then I like to add the 3 F's quickly, okay? So the 3 F's stands for freedom of choice, future regret, future pacing. So if I'm doing a talk, and I'm closing, and then I'm gonna say quickly, because research shows that future, freedom of choice, by the way, is sometimes you're so passionate, the moment you remove the freedom of choose, the freedom of decide, it's gonna backfire. So one quick line to say, look, as a real estate agent, I understand to have many options and have the power to decide who's gonna do business with you. I get it. Right? So acknowledge that they have the power. Just acknowledging reduce resistance. Right? Second F, future regret. Regret's a powerful emotion that most people don't want to experience. Right? So now I want to link, I want to connect now. I'm going to ask now, let me ask you something. Wouldn't you regret, and you want to say this with empathy, right? Now let me ask some, let's say 6 months, let's say next month or next week or 2 weeks from now, when you have someone who's interested to buy a house and you don't do the strategy and you miss the deal, wouldn't you regret not knowing this and implementing effectively? Right? So that's one way to do it. Or if I told a what if you don't story, right? This is important. In my talk, let's say, and the realtor was Mary. All I have to say is like, let me ask you something. Don't you think that Mary didn't regret not knowing this? Cost her a deal? That's simple as that. And then the third F is future pacing. You want to create a compelling future. Say, now how awesome to feel that now when you do open houses, when you do presentations, man, you just know you have all these tools available to increase the likelihood you're going to get the deal done. How awesome to feel. All right? 3 Fs. Then my offer. And that's what I do for my referral partners, whatever the language you want to use. And then what I like to do here, when I explain what I do, my offer is going to be sit down. You want to offer some of value, right? So here's the next step. Here's what I want to happen. I always like to say, let me tell what is not, let me tell what it is. You know, look, I'm not going to meet up with you to waste your time. You've done that before. That's one. So my meeting or my call to action, let me tell what is not. And let me tell what it is, what's going to happen. And then I tell your process, what you're going to do, and the benefit of a meeting with you. All right? So 3 Fs. Talk about your call to action. Could be if you're doing a text, opt-in, if you're doing a meeting, whatever the setting is. I quickly say, let me tell what is not, let me tell what it is, and here's your benefit of doing this. And then you can even tell a quick story, but I want to pause here because I know I have 8 minutes. Be respectful here. So that would be.
So 2 things. One, I'm going to post Roberto's formula. It is 3 Fs, freedom of choice. Number 2, future regret.
Yeah.
Number 3, future pacing.
Yeah.
I call that vision casting.
Love it.
Then your offer.
Yeah.
And your close. So boom, yeah. I just put that in there. So let's do 2 things. One, I want to have Scott share what he's got from this and how he connects that. Todd, I'm going to have you close with some coaching stuff. But Roberto, before both of those guys do that, you know, I'm passionate about the value you bring, not only in meetings like this, but one-on-one coaching, group coaching. I know you've got platforms where people can, you know, go deeper with you. How can folks connect with you at the next level and get value from you?
Very quickly. If you're not going to do talks for real estate agents, if you're not going to do presentations on one, then I'm not your guy. So don't bother. But if you want to do talks, if you want to start doing talks, if you're doing talks, you want to increase conversion, if you're doing video marketing, 2 quick resources. One is called Influenceology. That's my website. And I have 3 or 4 ebooks, 25 pages each on closing mistakes, delivering a message with the charisma and influence, overcoming fear. Go get it for free. That's number 1, free stuff. Second one, for 10 years now, I've been doing a class, a 3-day public speaking class, and it's called Influencing from the Front. Influencing from the Front. And I'm telling you, it's 30 hours of pure awesomeness. And let me tell you what is not. Here's how I'm using my strategy. It's not an event that you're going to go in and learn all the stuff. Then I'm going to go home like, how do I apply? What's unique about our event is that we teach and you do it there. So personal story, you do there. Record a video, you do there. A client story, you do there. And then on Sunday, which is awesome, nobody does that. I rent all these rooms and everybody will do a 15-minute pitch from opening, pre-frame, body, pre-close, and close, and get coaching, which is awesome. My goal is that by the time you're done the class, you say, you can go to the real estate office on Sunday evening and just shut it down the house. That's my goal. If you're interested, just go to influencingfromthefront.com.
Beautiful. And I have been through that. I have personally paid to send employees from Mortgage Coach to it. And I've had countless people do it. And then I've had Roberto create custom classes inspired from that for the Mortgage Coach community. The picture, like when I announced this call and I showed a picture of myself, Jeremy Forcier, Scott was in it. the late great Ron Quintero, just mortgage legends. That was Roberto. So guys, I'm a big fan. I am a reference for Roberto. I'm an ambassador for Roberto. And if I have any, I don't think I'm an amazing speaker, but anything I do is right, I learned from Roberto. So get value.
I appreciate that.
Some free
Thanks
value.
so much.
All right. So Scott, let's go with you first. You've heard all this. Knowing the conversation you and I have been having, what do you want to say? You got 3-4 minutes, and then we're going to give it to Todd to wrap it up.
Okay. So a couple things. Here's what's ironic about, and people think about what we're in right now, what group we're in. We're in Mortgage Coach. Mortgage Coach is a software that provides a solution for a consumer. And one of the biggest benefits, not only the solution, is to turn on the video mechanism in there and send it out. So think about that. I mean, this is the core of this software. And so if you think you got it, you probably don't. And that's why we went to Roberto 9 and 10 years ago to work on, even if you don't give realtor speeches, you should be working on your presentation in your TCAs, in your seller buy downs, in your rent versus owns. Because I'll give you a statistic. In my branch, in my company that uses Mortgage Coach, I am the #1 converter of all TCAs, seller buy downs everywhere, because of what I learned from Roberto years ago and what I practice today. And so if you're just going to say, I'm not going to speak, you need to be there if you're going to use Mortgage Coach. So I think it goes perfect. And I think it's beyond just maybe a realtor presentation. You need to think about what group we're in. You need to bring that to the next level and convert more of those clients with your software. Second, I moved into seller buy down for condition wise. I was looking at your the vision casting, as Dave saw. I'm watching this market move. There's not only a lake, there's an ocean of alligators. And I'm looking at where I'm going to be in the next 3 months, a quarter to 6 months to a year and 5 years. And I want longevity here. What I'm fearful of is another refi market, because where am I going? I'm going right into the ocean of alligators, and I'm going to compete with the big banks that do it for basically nothing. And I'm going to have really good clients that are going to say, hey, Scott, I love you, man. And we've been clients for years, but so-and-so can get here. So my point being is this. I recognize my business, my big pillar of business is with my agents and purchases. That's where, and then knowing that, how can I build that relationship even further? Then recognize the dynamics of the market as it's changing. How can I bring the strategy that I've owned and created, so to speak, back in 7, 8, and 9 when the market was collapsing? We're going into that again. Even though the rates are great, remember, it's driven on inventory, and I'm getting 10 to 12 alerts every single day. Price drop, price shock. And I'm thinking to myself, target. And that's where my business is. And that's why I created the Seller Buy Down company, to help not only for myself and create everything for myself as a originator, but other LOs across the country. I believe in it. I have passion in it. And that's why we launched that company.
Yeah, sellerbuydown.com, guys. So if you want to learn more about what Scott's doing, he's got a private Facebook group, or you can email him. We'll put a link down below. So Todd, Coach Todd Bookspan, bring us home with call to actions and action plans.
Oh my gosh, that was just awesome. Roberto, Scott, you guys crushed it. Dave and I were in a zone today, because every time I was going to make a comment, you made the comment I was going to make right before I made it. I would just say a couple of things. You just heard Scott say it. Get out of the big ocean of alligators and start doing this. So the first call to action is to listen to this again and take better notes, because the bottom line is you need to swipe and adapt. You need to make this executable today. So you need to think through what your story is. And I would use the story of the building in Rio and Carnival and how that happened, right? But don't worry about creating your own. Use what you were just given, right? And then go in there and look at what Scott posts with regards to seller buy down scripts and calls to action. And just take one, right? And record one video today and post it up to your Facebook group. Share it in here. Dave already said it. We're a transparent group. Let's sharpen each other in a positive way. And in the end, you've got two choices, right? I guess three choices, according to Roberto, right? You could be one of those people who needs to change and doesn't know it. You could be one of those people who's kind of in the middle, or you could be the person who knows it and hasn't taken action. So I would just say be the person, regardless, who takes action today. And, this community is awesome. I love it. And the last thing I throw out there is just know that people are going out there and they're going after your business. I had a Win by Noon user tell me yesterday that they had a client who they stole away from Quicken Loans because they had a more expensive loan. And then lo and behold, 3 days before closing, they got an email from Quicken saying, hey, we still have your file open. And guess what? We'll do this for free and we'll drop our rate to this. And so keep on it, build that relationship with your clients, tell them these stories, make them worry about regret, make them think about their future. And I thought it was an awesome call.
Yeah. So guys, here's the deal. Remember, the best post, and hint, the best post might include a TCA with a video that when you have, and by the way, it might not, I might see a post that I like better, but it might, and, but anything, and you get a free 20-minute session with Roberto. Make sure you check out his website, links down below to both free stuff in Influenceology and his premium immersion program. We'll put links down below. So if you got value, give us a like, share it with your friends, watch it again. Roberto, you're the man, bro.
Boom. Thanks so much, guys, for the invitation. Always so much fun spend time with leaders like yourself. Thank you. Very honored. Thank you so much.
Grateful, brother. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.